I know you guys are thinking, why on earth are you reviewing Terminator Dark Fate? This movie came out months ago. Well, due to the coronavirus delaying a lot of films, I wanted to talk about some films in 2019 that I didn't get to talk about. And one of those films is Terminator Dark Fate. Before I get into this, two things to know up front. Number one, massive spoilers for Terminator Dark Fate. If you wanted to see it, you most likely have by now, but just in case you haven't, all the spoilers for Terminator Dark Fate. And secondly, I've only seen two Terminator films, Terminator Genesis and Terminator Dark Fate, so I'm not really a mega fan of the series. I know Terminator 1 and 2 are great in their own beloved way, and the other two are apparently fine. I'll get to them eventually. So some things that you'd be like, why'd you like this so much, or why'd you not hate this so much, just keep it in mind that I haven't seen most of the Terminator films. Alright, let's talk about it.
The whole body's a weapon. Sorry.
So did I think Terminator Dark Fate was worth all the hate it got? No, I don't. I definitely don't think it's a great film. I don't really think it's an awful film either. It's just a bit of a mixed bag. I think it's the best way I can describe Terminator Dark Fate. It's not a horrible film. It's just a bit of a mixed bag. First of all, the cast. Linda Hamilton is pretty much great as Sarah Connor. She might definitely be the best part of the film. The performances is really great. She's gritty, but she's also really intense. But she also has a lot of emotion due to her son being shot in the opening scene, which we'll definitely get to. She has some pretty awesome moments, definitely. And she definitely gives one of the best performances in this film. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the T-100 is fine. There were some character choices that they gave him that I didn't love. Mostly him having a family. I didn't really love that. It mostly is used as a joke. I think Linda Hamilton says one time, how does your family not find it suspicious that you weigh over 400 pounds? Yeah, the joke's not really that funny, but I do exalt that they use it as a joke. But he has some fun moments. He's used in the action sequences, and he has some cool moments in the action. He's not in the film as much as you would think, though, so if you're expecting an Arnold-focused film, yeah, you're not going to get that. Also, his death, I didn't find that emotional, because apparently he dies in every single Terminator film, so it's not really that shock that he dies. The actress that plays Grace was actually pretty fantastic. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, and even if I try to pronounce your name, I'm going to butcher it so hard. So I am sorry, but you're pretty fantastic. She wasn't amazing. She didn't blow my mind or anything. But from what I was expecting from the trailers, I was like, yeah, she's probably gonna be fine, and she was actually pretty great. And also the main guy again who plays the main Terminator villain, I think is the best part of the film. He is fantastic. The CGI for most of the part is pretty fantastic, and he is easily the best action sequence There's a prison action sequence that is absolutely perfect. It's brutal. It's really well shot and edited, and it is just one of my personal favorite action sequences in the entire film. And also the actress that plays Danny is a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes she's really good, sometimes she's fine, and sometimes she's bearable. And also sometimes she doesn't act like how any human would act. Her family was just murdered by this Terminator guy, and she kind of mourns for a little bit, but then straight up she just doesn't. Her brother was killed right in front of her. Her father died, and she just doesn't act like how a normal person would act in this situation, which was kind of annoying. And also that she is the new John Connor and the leader of the Resistance. The build-up didn't really work, and the line delivery by Sarah Connor was extremely hokey and cheesy, so I wasn't really a big fan of this character. Most of the action sequences are pretty bearably fine. The prison action sequence I think is really awesome, and also the construction action sequence I think is really cool. All the hand stuff I think is really cool, but most of the action is just fine. And sometimes it's just either too CGI, or sometimes there's just a lot of quick cuts and zoom. There's a car chase in the film after the factory fight that is just extremely hard to follow and just extremely hard edited, and it just doesn't really work. Also, the plane fight that they've marketed through all the marketing of the film, I guess they were super proud of that fight, is extremely bad. Easily the worst fight in this entire film. Overall, this is just a fine film. There's some things that don't really work in the film, but there's some things that definitely do work. I find the film sometimes to be pretty good, most of the CGI to be fine, and now let's talk about the bad of the film. First of all, I've already talked. First up, as I said, the T-800 having a family, I'm just like, I don't really get that, and I don't really like that at all in the film. He's killed hundreds and hundreds of people, so how on earth would he have a family? I just find that extremely odd and not really that great. Also, a lot of the jokes don't really land. I realize a lot of film franchises now are trying to be the MCU, and I love the MCU. It's one of my favorite movie franchise, if not my favorite movie franchise. I love the humor in the film, but the Terminator franchise and the MCU are totally different films. But Terminator Genesis and then Dark Fate, the two Terminator films I've seen, are all trying to be like the MCU and trying to be like every big blockbuster action. Also, the visual effects are, for the most part, are pretty great, but sometimes they don't really look that stellar, especially a lot with the transforming Terminator effect doesn't really look that great. Also, this film has a weird glossy tone to it. I can compare this to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The Lord of the Rings is very gritty and kind of real in, it looks lived in, and The Hobbit is just very glossy and CGI. I know the Terminator franchise and the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit franchise are totally different franchises, but that's the best way I can describe it. The movie's pacing is extremely bad. It's only 2 hours and 8 minutes, but just to kind of give you an example of how bad the pacing is, during that train fight, during that plane sequence, I was like, oh, this is probably the end of the film. But we still have 10, 15, 20 more minutes left to go. This is how bad the pacing is. And also, this film sometimes is just extremely boring. There's just a lot of exposition. Just people talking about exposition and stuff we already know. And as somebody who's haven't seen the other films, that kind of helps me. But for other people who have seen the film, it just kind of feels annoying that they kind of just shoehorn in a lot of exposition. Also, the direction and editing at times is really bad. I've already talked about the editing and the action sequences, but it's the editing of the whole film in general is just extremely bad. Scenes start and then end abruptly, or they start abruptly and they seem like they never end. And also, this film's direction. It's directed by Tim Miller, who's a pretty fantastic director, but there's nothing really amazing due to the direction stand. Overall, Terminator Dark Fate is a fine film. It's not terrible, it's just not great either. I'm going to give Terminator Dark Fate a C+. So those are my thoughts on Terminator Dark Fate. What do you think of those? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you guys like this video, guys can hit that like button and subscribe and hit that post notification bell so you guys never miss when I upload another video. You guys can also check out my podcast I do every other Tuesday morning with a friend of mine. It's called the Two Peas in a Pod podcast. You guys can also check out my Instagram at general_Daniel77. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. General out.